Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. I'm your host, the Dooster. Today, I want to share with you an attack that allegedly occurred in April 1982 in the Land Between the Lakes recreation area in Lyon County, Kentucky. We do know the names of the victims, or the alleged victims, I might say, but I have changed their names. I'm going to refer to them as the Jones family, and I've also changed their first names as well. There's several versions of this encounter floating around out there in the cryptid circles. It really all depends on who you talk to as to which version is correct. One version of it states that in early 1982, the Jones family, like I said, I've changed their names, sold their farm near LaGrange, Indiana, and purchased a new Holiday Imperial motorhome. With the funds left over from the sale of the farm, they were also able to buy a small Chevy Chevette to tow behind the motorhome. This would provide them with a means of transportation and run errands and such while camping, and allow them to leave the motorhome set up at the campsite. On April 7th, 1982, the family arrived at Land Between the Lakes recreation area, driving the motorhome with the Chevette in tow. The area they selected for this particular family outing was a newly constructed modern campground in the Nichols Branch area, located in Lyon County, Kentucky. This party of campers included, like I said, I've changed their names. This party of campers included Lewis, his wife Louise, their 13-year-old son Steve, and Bonnie, their 9-year-old daughter. Also accompanying them in this outing was a 15-year-old Ricky, who was not actually related to the family. He was just simply a family friend and had been invited to go along at the last minute. Upon arriving at their designated camping spot, they unhooked the Chevette, backed their motorhome in position, and went about setting up their camp. Ricky had stomach issues that morning and had made a mad dash for the facility restroom located nearby. Lewis and Steve were in the process of leveling the front end of the motorhome and getting a camp set up before it got dark. Suddenly, from out the nearby ravine came a large black creature that one could only describe as a werewolf. It ran about on two legs and was covered from head to toe with long, shaggy black hair. Atop its broad and muscular shoulders was what looked like the head of a wolf, with a mouth full of canine teeth and large fangs. The ears atop its head were small and pointed. Large razor-sharp claws protruded from its feet and its paws. The creature came around the front of the motorhome and attacked Lewis with a vengeance, tearing off his head and biting off both his arms. The first creature was joined by another, and Steve made a sudden break for the motorhome, but never made it. Lewis and Bonnie were inside the motorhome preparing a snack when Steve started screaming at the top of his lungs. Louise opened the door just in time to see her son getting ripped to shreds. Not being able to help her son, her self-preservation instincts kicked in, and she slammed the door of the motorhome and locked it. Bonnie was standing just inside the door, and Louise grabbed her and ran into the bedroom, locking the door behind her. By this time, Ricky had emerged from the facility restroom bathhouse, and upon seeing the creatures, looked for a place to hide. He glanced back toward the bathroom, but knew he could never make it, as it was already almost back to the campsite. On the backside of the motorhome, and unseen by the creatures, Ricky quickly climbed underneath and was able to perch out of their sight between the drive shaft and the vehicle chassis. The lightweight aluminum exterior door was no match for the creature, as it ripped it off the hinges, threw it aside, and bounded inside the motorhome. From his hiding place below the floor, Ricky could hear the screaming and carnage going on above as the creature ripped the cheap bedroom door open to where Bonnie and Louise were hiding. In the meantime, the other creature ripped off the screen and tore his way in through the bedroom window. Bonnie and Louise never stood a chance. Shaking unmercifully, Ricky remained in his hiding place for quite a while, waiting until he was sure the monsters from hell had left. He slowly left the safety of his hiding spot and ran to the nearest highway, constantly looking over his shoulder in case he was being pursued. When he reached the highway, he flagged down a passing motorist who took him to a phone. Ricky called the local authorities, and shortly they arrived on the scene. And what a gruesome sight it was. What was left of Lewis's body was scattered in the gravel in front of the motorhome. He had been disemboweled, and his head was lying between his body and the roadway. Both arms had been ripped off and were completely missing. Steve was found lying in a pool of blood beside the motorhome, which was splattered with blood and tissue. He had been ripped to shreds and was completely unrecognizable. Entering the motorhome through the opening where the door once was, they found Louise. She had also been ripped to shreds, and the floor and the walls of the bedroom looked like a slaughterhouse. The officers had never seen such a bloodbath and spent more time outside puking their guts out than inside with the carnage. Searching outside for any other victims, they found Bonnie's shredded, half-eaten body wedged in the forks of a tall tree several yards away in the forest. At about that time, some agency of the federal government showed up and took over the scene. The local officers were relieved of duty and told to leave, but not before being threatened to keep this incident to themselves and to tell no one. A few minutes later, a company of soldiers from nearby Fort Campbell arrived and started processing the gruesome scene. All of the bodies were bagged and taken off site, as well as the motorhome and the Chevette. To this date, no documentation of the disposition of the vehicles, as well as the victims, has been found. Another version of this story was pretty much with the same details, except 1. It does not mention Ricky, the witness. 2. The bodies were found by a passing hiker who saw the bodies near an RV and notified authorities. And 3. The camper was not a motorhome, but a trailer-type RV that was towed with a vehicle. And 4. Bonnie was found on the ground at the base of the tree and not in the tree. As no documentation of any kind has been found to either prove or disprove this event, it brings on several questions. Did this attack really happen? Was there an actual witness to this gruesome attack? What was the disposition, if any, of the creatures who murdered the family? And why was the campground, which was fairly modern, new at this time, destroyed and metal barriers installed to prevent vehicle entry into the area? Or the one big question that we probably already know the answer to is, was this a government cover-up? Like I said, there's several versions of this story out there. Which one you choose to believe is totally up to you. If it actually even occurred or not. So I wanted to put that out there, and you can develop your own opinion on this if you think it did occur or not. But anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. This is the Dooster with Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. I invite you to subscribe to my page and give me a like every once in a while. And we will catch you next time. Thank you for watching.